She hadn't eaten in 3 days. The alien girl sat beside the trash heap near the south gate of Titan IX space station. Her skin was pale blue, cracked around her lips, and her big golden eyes blinked slowly as the wind carried the smell of rotten food. Her arms hugged her small body tight, no shoes, just one thin cloth wrapped around her like a broken curtain. Ships flew overhead. Traders passed by with glowing crates, but nobody looked at her. She reached her hand toward a leftover crust, lying in the dirt. Before she could grab it, a boot stomped down on it. "Filthy thing," said a thick alien guard with yellow tusks and a shining badge. "Get out of here before I make you." The girl didn't speak. She only lowered her head and crawled back. Behind the trash pile, her stomach twisted and growled. She wanted to scream, to cry, but she knew better. Weak ones didn't get help here. Weak ones were thrown into the incinerator or sold back to the mines. She didn't know how much longer she could take this. Her hands were shaking. Her eyes were dry. Her breath came slow, like her body was shutting down. And that's when a shadow fell over her. It wasn't a god. It wasn't a trader. It was a tall figure in dark clothes, standing still, watching her. He didn't speak. He didn't move. The girl flinched. She thought he'd shout or hit her. Instead, he crouched down slowly and placed something in the dirt in front of her. Bread. A full piece. Soft, still warm. Steam rose from the crust. She stared at it like it was magic. Her hands trembled, but she didn't move. It had to be a trick. No one gave food freely on Titan IX, especially not to her. "Eat it," the man said in a quiet voice. She looked up at him. He wasn't alien. He was human. His face was tired but calm, with a short beard and eyes that didn't look angry, only serious. He placed a small flask beside the bread. "Water too," he added. Still, she didn't move. He waited for a long moment, then stood back up and turned to walk away. The girl grabbed the bread so fast it tore in her hands. She shoved it into her mouth, choking as she chewed. Tears spilled from her eyes, but she didn't stop. The water burned her throat. It felt so cold, so clean. She finished every drop. When she looked up again, the man was still there. "He hadn't left. You shouldn't be here alone," he said. She froze. "Come with me," he said. She curled back, fear returning in her eyes. "I won't hurt you," the man added. "I've seen what they do to girls like you. You won't survive another night out here." She wanted to believe him, but every voice in her head screamed no. Still, something deep inside, something weak and scared and tired, whispered yes. He turned again and began walking toward a narrow passage behind the docking zone. He didn't look back. The girl stared at his back. Her legs didn't want to move, but her heart did. Slowly, she got to her feet, wobbling, using the wall to support her. She followed, barefoot, silent. The path led to an old cargo bay, not used anymore. The man opened a side door and stepped in. She followed, hesitating at the doorframe. Inside, it was warm. There was a heater, a mat, a clean blanket, and canned food stacked against the wall. "Sit," he said. "You can rest here tonight." She stepped inside. The door shut behind her. With a soft click, she jumped. He noticed. "No one will come here. You're safe." She sat on the mat, her body still tense. He poured soup into a small bowl and handed it to her. Her hands shook so badly she spilled some. He didn't get mad. Instead, he said, "My name's Jace." She didn't answer. "I don't need your name right now," he said. "Just eat." She sipped the soup. It was salty, warm, and full of things she hadn't tasted in years. She covered her mouth and cried, not from pain but because she didn't remember what kindness felt like. Jace didn't speak after that. He just sat across from her, leaning back, eyes half closed, like he'd done this before. The girl ate everything, then curled under the blanket. That night, for the first time in many cycles, she slept without fear, and while she slept, Jace stayed awake. He looked at the thin scar on her back, just visible through the cloth. The way her hands gripped the blanket in her sleep. Who had done that to her? He didn't know yet, but one thing was certain: whoever they were, they wouldn't get another chance. She woke up gasping, heart pounding, eyes wide with fear. The blanket was still around her, warm and soft. The small room was dim, lit by a heater's orange glow. She wasn't in a cage, not in a cell, not under a guard's boot. She was still inside the cabin. For a moment she forgot where she was. Then she saw him sitting near the door with a steel pipe across his lap, asleep but alert, like a soldier who never truly rests. Panic rose in her throat. She looked around quickly. No chains, no locked doors, just walls lined with tools, food supplies, and a second blanket folded on the floor. She didn't understand. Why was he sleeping by the door, not beside her? Why give her his own bed? Jace opened one eye. "You're safe," he said, voice rough. "From sleep. You slept 10 hours. No one came." She backed into the corner, pulling the blanket tighter. "I told you," he said. "I won't hurt you." She didn't speak. Her voice had been silent for too long. Every instinct told her to run, but her legs stayed still. Jace stood slowly, stretched his back, then walked over to a small stove. He poured water into a pot and added cubes of dried vegetables. "I used to be a technician," he said as he stirred, "out in the mining fields. Then the war hit. Now I just fix what I can and stay out of trouble." He turned and looked at her. You got a name? She shook her head slowly. Or maybe she didn't remember. Or maybe she didn't want to say. Bit alright, he said, placing a new bowl of soup in front of her. Until you tell me, I'll call you Star. Her eyes lifted slightly. You fell from the sky, he said, almost smiling, like a quiet little star. She looked at the soup, her fingers hesitated, unsure. Was it poisoned? Was this some trick? He saw her fear. I'll eat first, he said, taking another bowl, sipping it in front of her. See, not dead. Slowly, she picked up the bowl. She didn't cry this time. She just ate, quietly, quickly. Her body needed it. Her soul still didn't trust it. He sat down on the floor across from her. You can stay, he said, but there are rules. You don't steal, you don't lie, and if anyone knocks, you hide under that mat. I'll take care of it. She nodded a small, fast nod, like a child afraid of doing something wrong. He stood again, reached for a small satchel, and pulled out something soft clothes. They're old, but they'll fit you better than that curtain you're wearing. She touched the fabric. It wasn't fancy, but it was clean. She turned her back and began to change, careful, fast, shoulders shaking with nervous energy. She didn't want him to look. He didn't. He stepped outside the cabin to give her space, leaning on the wall, watching the corridor. A drone buzzed past. Somewhere boots echoed on metal. Patrols were getting closer these days. Inside, she looked at herself. The pants were loose, the shirt big, but it felt like armor. She had clothes, real clothes, not slave wraps, not trash, scraps. For the first time in a long time, she didn't feel like a thing. She stepped outside quietly, standing just beside him. You don't talk much, he said, glancing down at her. That's fine. Words are dangerous here anyway. She nodded. Again, do you have family? She looked down, eyes dark. Okay, he said gently. No more questions. They walked together down the back hall of the cargo zone. Jace showed her the escape hatches, the ventilation path, and where to hide in case of raid. You follow this, he said, tracing a finger along the pipe wall, and you'll find my old service tunnel. If I'm gone, you use it. She didn't ask why, but she understood. Then she heard it, a voice, sharp, loud. Hey, you human. A guard. Jace stepped in front of her without pause. The armored alien came close. You've seen a blue-skinned girl around here. Small one. Dirty face. Slave. Mark on her neck. Jace looked the alien straight in the eyes. I've seen lots of things, he said coolly. Trash. Rats. Lies. Nothing useful. The guard stepped closer, sniffing the air, narrowing his eyes. Jace's tone hardened. You accusing me of something? The guard growled, then backed away. Watch yourself, human. Harboring a runaway earns death. When the guard left, Jace turned back to her. She was pale, trembling, hand clutching the pipe behind her. Next time, he said calmly, we don't wait, we move fast. She looked at him, her lips moved slightly. Why? She whispered, voice dry, small. Why help me? He didn't the answer right away. He looked down the corridor thinking, then he said, because someone helped me once, and I never forgot it. She looked at him for a long time, and for the first time in years, her heart whispered something fragile. Thunder shook the outer hull of Titan IX while dim red lights flashed far away. Yet the hidden cabin stayed quiet, wrapped in heater hum. Star jerked awake, breath slicing her throat. For a long second she feared iron chains, then the smell of soup reminded her of the human room and safety that felt thin as paper. Jace was not there. Panic crawled through her muscles. She scanned every corner. No human, no voice. When the door slid open, her heart slammed. Cold night air rolled in. Jace stepped through, carrying a field pack streaked with oil and rain. He paused when he saw her wide eyes, then raised one calm hand. I went for supplies. He said. He knelt, unzipped the pack, and lifted out a round loaf of bread still warm against the cold. Star's stomach cramped at the scent. Jace placed the loaf on a tin plate and slid it toward her. She did not touch it. Hunger pushed her forward, but shame held her back. Eat, Jace whispered. She lifted the loaf with shaking fingers. Steam drifted upward. A small sound escaped her throat, sharp and broken. She tore a piece free and tasted soft warmth and salt. The flavor slammed into memory of her children in rags, overseers laughing, a whip cracking through smoke. Tears rushed from her eyes. She tried to swallow them but could not. Jace slid closer and set a clean cloth in her lap. His hand rested near hers but did not touch. He waited. Star sobbed harder, shoulders quaking, silent cries folding inward as if sound itself meant punishment. When the storm eased, she wiped her face and found him still beside her, patient, steady. Took bread once, she whispered. They punished the others to teach me fear. Jace listened without a word. My mother gave me her share, she continued, voice raw. A guard called it theft. They threw her into the furnace cart. Her breath vanished. The crust in her hand cracked under her grip. Fire filled her memory. Orange and endless dot. Jace spoke softly. Stop there. You are not in that place tonight. He sliced the crushed edge away and offered the fresh half back. She held it but waited. Why help me? She asked. There is no reward. Jace leaned against a crate. His eyes traced the ceiling vents. After the war, I was trapped in a wrecked frigate. Oxygen low. A Drathan engineer saved me, patched my suit, stayed until rescue came. I never learned his name. He wanted nothing. Kindness keeps moving as long as someone passes it on. Outside, metal shutters rattled and armored voices echoed. Star stiffened. Jace pointed at the floor panel. She crawled under the false deck and lay still. He pulled the blanket across the opening and sat on it cross-legged, as if meditating. Heavy boots marched past. A fist hammered twice, then moved on. Minutes stretched. Star felt her pulse in her ears. At last, Jace lifted the blanket. "They are gone," he said. "You did well." She crawled out, knees shaking. To her surprise, he smiled, small and tired. The tension inside her uncoiled a little. She released one shaky laugh, her first real laugh in years. It startled her more than the fists on the door. The loaf rested between them, half-eaten, crumbs sparkling in heater light. Slowly, she broke a new piece and held it toward him. He accepted. They ate together in quiet, equal halves, and something invisible settled in the room like dawn mist. Jace set his half-plate aside. "Tomorrow we move to a safer wing," he said. "Patrols will grow thick. Can you walk the ducts?" She nodded. The idea of leaving frightened her, yet staying felt worse. "Then rest," he said. "We leave at first shift." He lay back, pipe beside his hand, eyes sliding half-closed. Star pulled the blanket over her legs but stayed sitting, watching embers glow. Fear still lived inside her, but another feeling stirred, warmth that spread through her bones faster than soup, stronger than cloth. She had shared food without punishment, laughed without pain, and a human had guarded her sleep. For the first time since the mines, Star dared to imagine a morning she did not dread. Outside, the hull cooled after the storm, releasing pops of metal like distant fireworks. Star listened and realized that the sounds no longer meant danger but simply night. She let the rhythm lull her breathing. Before sleep took her, she whispered thanks, not sure if Jace heard, and pressed the untouched cloth against her cheek. The cloth smelled of clean soap, something she had almost forgotten. In that scent she found the picture of a possible future: a table, 2 cups, and no chains. Asterisk, she only wanted to buy fruit. Star stood at the corner stall in the lower market, fingers curled around 2 small credits Jace had given her. Her clothes were cleaner now. Her skin no longer looked like dry stone. But the others still stared at her like she didn't belong, like she was disease-walking. The vendor was a thick-scaled trader with sharp yellow eyes. His fruits glowed faintly, preserved with vapor tech. Star reached for a small red sphere, and for a moment, she almost forgot to be afraid. Then it happened. A boy screamed behind her. She stole it. I saw her take it. She turned just in time to see a young alien smirking and pointing, but the trader's face twisted with rage. "Thief," he spat. "You dare steal from me?" "I didn't," she whispered, but the crowd didn't care. Words meant nothing here. A pair of guards were already walking toward her. The Star panicked. Her fingers dropped the fruit. Her feet stepped back, but too late. The guards grabbed her arms. "No, please, I didn't steal anything." "Check her," one growled. "If she lies, her hands go first." They slammed her down against the stall. A crowd formed quickly. Whispers filled the air like insects. One guard reached for his scanner while the other yanked up her sleeve. His eyes narrowed as he spotted the faint slave mark burned into her skin. "A runaway," he hissed, "from the eastern mines. This one's got a price on her head." The crowd gasped. Some laughed. Then a voice rang out, "Let her go." The crowd turned. Jace stood at the edge, his black coat flapping in the breeze from the vent shafts. His boots were silent on the metal. His face was calm to calm. "She's with me," he said. The guards hesitated. "She was accused of theft." One replied. "Do you find anything?" Jace asked. The scanner blinked green. "Empty. No stolen goods." The first guard admitted. Jace stepped forward, then let go. "She's marked," the second said, still holding her arm. Jace's hand moved like a flash. His knife was out, pressed lightly under the guard's chin. "Let go," Jace repeated, voice colder now, "or I start collecting ears." The silence in the market went sharp. The guard's eyes twitched. Slowly he released her. Star dropped to the floor, shaking. Jace stepped between her and the guards. "She's under my care," he said loudly. "She carries my name. Anyone touches her answers to me." The vendor grunted. "Your property." Then Jace looked at him like the words burned. "No," he said, "not property. She's a person." A strange sound swept through the market. Some laughed, some sneered, some simply turned away. But no one stepped closer. The guards backed off. "You'll regret this, human," one of them muttered. "I already regret waking up this morning," Jace replied. They left. Star stayed on the ground, hugging her knees. Jace knelt beside her and spoke low, so only she could hear. "Look at me." She didn't. He touched her shoulder gently. "Star, you're not what they say you are. You didn't steal. You stood there, honest. I saw it all. I didn't do anything wrong." She whispered. "I know," he said. Tears spilled down her cheeks, hot and angry. "But they didn't care. I told the truth and they still hurt me." "I know." he repeated. But they didn't win. You're still here, and I'm still beside you. She looked at him, eyes red. Why? She asked again. Why do you keep saving me, Jace? Beside. Because once, no one saved my sister. I was too late, and I swore if I ever had the chance again. He trailed off. His eyes stared through the ground, as if he saw ghosts there. Star didn't know what to say, so she reached out, unsure, and held his hand. It was the first time she touched him, without fear. They left the market in silence, walking side by side through the dark halls. Jace's jaw was tight. Star's fingers still trembled, but in her chest something had changed. She wasn't alone anymore. Later that night, back in the cabin, Jace lit a lantern and handed her a fresh piece of fruit, the same kind from earlier. Bought it, he said. Fair and legal. She held it carefully. Her fingers brushed over the smooth skin, and then she bit into it. Sweet, cold, real. I'm not a thief, she whispered. No, Jace said with a faint smile. You're not. And from that day forward, no one in that district dared lay a hand on her again. The pot exploded not with fire or smoke, but with a loud pop and a splash of thick brown soup that covered the wall, the floor, and most of Star's hair. She froze, mouth open, holding the long stirring stick like a weapon. Steam rose behind her like smoke from a crashed shuttle. A soggy vegetable chunk slid down her forehead. Jace stared. Then he laughed. Really laughed. Deep, warm, surprised. Star blinked at him. I followed the instructions, she stammered, face burning. Jace grabbed a towel and held it out. You tripled the heat. I thought the numbers meant flavor level. Now he was laughing even harder. He leaned over, holding his side, trying to breathe. Star's embarrassment burned like a sun. She dropped the spoon and turned to hide. Her face. I ruined everything, she said. Jace shook his head, wiping his eyes. You made something explode in the safety of my kitchen. That's impressive. I just wanted to make you dinner, she whispered. His smile softened. You did. It's all over the walls now. She looked at him slowly. His grin hadn't vanished. He wasn't angry. He didn't shout or insult her. He looked like a person who saw something good and precious, not a mistake, and then it happened. She smiled. It was small at first, just a twitch at the corners of her lips, then it grew wide and real. Her eyes lit up like warm stars. Jace's breath caught. It was the first time he'd seen her smile. It wasn't perfect. It was messy, nervous, and wet from tears she tried to hide, but it was real. Now that, Jace said, pointing at her, that right there is the most dangerous thing I've seen this week. Star blinked. What? That smile. No guard's armor could stop it. She laughed. It surprised both of them. She quickly covered her mouth. Sorry. Don't ever be sorry for laughing, Jace said. She looked around the room. Soup dripped from the ceiling. The pot was upside down. She wiped a trail of beans from her arm and giggled again. I really wanted to make it special, she said. Softly. You did, Jace replied. This day will be hard to forget. She stepped back toward the pot, still holding the towel. I'll clean this, she said. I'll help. Together, they worked slowly, wiping every panel, mopping the floor, sharing soft jokes. He handed her a fresh cloth and said, next time, less heat. Next time, she asked. He looked at her directly. Yes, next time you'll cook again, right? She nodded before her mind could stop her. Yes, she wanted a next time, and not just for cooking. When they finished, Jace made them both sandwiches, basic rations with some sliced fungus root and sea glaze spread. Star ate slowly this time, not out of hunger, but to enjoy every bite. As they sat side by side on the floor, sharing the meal, she whispered something. Thank you for what? Jace asked. For making me feel like I belong somewhere. He didn't speak at first. Then he said, you do. Star looked down at her hands, noticing how steady they were today. No shaking, no hiding, Jace, she said, after a long silence. Yeah, if I wasn't useful, if I couldn't cook, couldn't clean, if I was just me, would you still want me here? He didn't even blink. Yes, even if I had nothing, you already gave me something, he said. You gave me your trust. That's more than most. Star's eyes stung again. But this time, the tears felt soft. Not sharp. You're not afraid of me, she asked. I've seen monsters, Jace said. You're not one of them. That night, Star didn't curl into a ball when she slept. She lay flat, arms at her sides, breathing deep. She even left the light on low. Not because she feared the dark, but because she wanted to wake up and still see. This place was real. Jse watched her for a while before turning in. Something had changed in her, and maybe in him too. He'd brought her in to help, maybe to ease an old guilt. But now, seeing her smile, hearing her laugh, watching her rebuild herself from pieces, he knew he didn't just rescue her, needed her too. And somehow, between broken soup pots and quiet words, they were building something neither of them had known before. A home. She had just set the table when the lights flickered. Star paused, holding the cup in both hands. The humming of the vents changed pitch just slightly, but she felt it. Her skin tingled. Something wasn't right. Jace looked up from his tools. Vent pressure's wrong, he muttered. He stood, placed the wrench down, and walked to the door. Before he could scan the locks, a loud bang echoed from the corridor. Star jumped. Get under, Jace said, already pulling the false floor mat aside. Star didn't hesitate. She crawled in and curled up, heart pounding, barely breathing. 3 more knocks, this time louder. Then a deep voice, metallic through a mask, growled outside. We tracked the signal. We know she's inside. Jace didn't open the door. You don't have authority here, he said firmly. She belongs to the Grell Trade Syndicate, the voice replied. Runaway property. She's not property, Jace growled. She has a mark. She has a name. Silence. Then the sound of metal being cut, slow, loud, electric. They were cutting through the door. JACE moved fast. He opened a back. Creighton pulled out a pulse rifle. He hadn't used it since the wars, but his hands remembered. He aimed it at the door, breathing slow. Star watched from beneath the floor. She could see his boots, steady as stone. Then the door burst open. 3 figures stepped inside, tall, armored, masks glowing red. Syndicate hunters, slave trackers. Jace didn't wait. The first shot slammed into the lead hunter's chest, sending him crashing back into the corridor wall. The second ducked and returned fire. Sparks rained from the walls. Jace dove behind a crate, scanned the room. One shouted, "Find the girl." Star covered her mouth. The hidden floor space suddenly felt too small, too loud, too fragile. Jace tossed a flash unit. It exploded in white light. The second hunter screamed, grabbing his visor. Jace jumped over the crate and slammed the butt of his rifle into the third hunter's jaw. Metal cracked. The body hit the ground, but the second hunter was recovering. He aimed at Jace's back. Star screamed. JACE, twisted just in time. The pulse blast grazed his shoulder. He dropped his rifle. The hunter charged. Star burst out of the floor. The hunter turned, surprised. She grabbed the fallen rifle, lifted it with trembling arms and fired. The shot hit clean. The last hunter fell. Silence returned, broken only by the whine of shorted wires and Jace's slow breathing. Star dropped the rifle, her whole body shaking. JACE leaned against the crate, clutching his arm. "You all right?" he asked, voice rough. She ran to him and helped lower him gently to the ground. "You're bleeding," she said, tears already forming. "Just a scratch," he said with a weak grin. She pressed cloth to his wound, hand steady despite the tears on her cheeks. "They came for me," she whispered. "I should have run. I should have left earlier." "No," he said firmly, "you don't run anymore. But they'll keep coming. Then we keep fighting." She looked at him, seeing the pain on his face, the sweat on his brow, and still that calm in his eyes. "Why?" she asked, again, always the same question. "Why risk your life for me?" "Because," he said slowly, "you're not theirs." He took her hand in his. "You never were," she cried then, fully, not from fear, from relief. He didn't pull away. He let her cry. And when she quieted, he said, "We'll have to leave this place. They'll send more. Where can we go?" "There's a zone outside the eastern belt. Old mining tunnels. Abandoned, no scanners work out there." Star nodded. She wiped her face, then helped him sit up. "I'll pack," she said. Jace smiled. "We'll pack together." As the light dimmed and the hallway grew still again, Star realized something. She had defended herself. She had protected the only person who ever saw her as more than a mark on her skin. She wasn't just the girl from the trash heap anymore. She was someone worth fighting for, and now she could fight back. Snow fell in silence over the dead mining zone. Old tunnels twisted through the broken rock, and thick white frost covered the abandoned buildings like forgotten bones. No lights, no drones, no scanners. Just the quiet breath of cold wind and the hum of their small shelter hidden deep inside an old old bunker. The Star sat near the small fireplate, rubbing her hands for warmth. Her new clothes were still patched and second-hand, but she had chosen them. She had cut her hair short too, not because someone told her to, but because she liked it. Jace rested against the far wall, his injured arm healing day by day. The wound had closed, the pain faded. But he never let her carry more than she could. Even now, he watched her from behind a half-closed eye. "You sleep like a cat," she said softly. "Old habit," he replied. "Sleep too deep, and you wake up dead." Star stood and walked to him. She sat beside him slowly and leaned against his good shoulder. He didn't move away. He hadn't in weeks. "I thought I'd never feel safe," she whispered. He said, "Nothing. I thought people like me only belonged in chains." "You don't belong anywhere you don't choose," Jace said. She looked up at him. "Then I choose here." A long silence passed between them, warm and still. The fireplate crackled. Outside, wind howled across the tunnel entrance. "You gave me everything," she said, "and you never asked for anything in return." "I didn't have to," he answered. She smiled, not the fragile smile she gave in the beginning. This one was strong. Full, sure. Star reached into her bag and pulled out a small item wrapped in cloth. She placed it gently in lap. He opened it and blinked. It was a small pendant made from scavenged wire and a broken ship crystal. It shimmered faintly in the firelight. "I made it," she said. "Took me days to shape the wire. But I wanted you to have it." "It's beautiful," Jace said, holding it carefully. "It's a sign," she said, "that I'm not running anymore." that I belong to myself now, and to something I chose. He looked at her, long and deep. You're sure? She nodded. I want to stay, not because I owe you, not because I'm scared, but because I love you. Jace's eyes didn't change, but the corners softened. I know, he said. She tilted her head. You do. I saw it in the way you made soup without blowing it up this time. She laughed, pushing his arm gently. And I saw it, he added, in the way you pulled a rifle and stood in front of me. That moment I knew. She placed her hand over his. I was afraid I couldn't love anyone again, that what they did to me had stolen that part. It never left, Jace said. It just needed a reason to come back. They sat there a long time, two shadows pressed close, the fire glowing between them. No collars, no chains, no screams behind doors. Just quiet, and freedom, and the warmth of something rare. Later that night, as Jace slept this time fully, Star stepped outside. She stood at the tunnel edge, snow falling gently on her head. She looked up at the stars. Cold, distant, beautiful. I'm not what you call me, she whispered to the night. I'm not property, I'm not a slave, I'm not broken. Her voice was strong. I'm loved, and I love. Behind her the fire flickered and Jace stirred, as if hearing her words through dreams. When she stepped back inside, she didn't look back at the snow. She belonged somewhere. Now, with him. Not as a girl rescued, not as someone kept safe, but as someone who had chosen to stay. And who would now protect the one who once protected her. Love had come without demand, and because of that she gave everything. Not her freedom, not her soul, but her heart, fully forever.